Good afternoon and welcome to the Midday News. Here's what we have in the bulletin. St. Elizabeth teacher abducted and throat slashed. Press government for delay in changes to Access to Information Act. In sports, Paul Hall confident of Reggae Boys' chances against USA in World Cup qualifier. I'm Giovanni Dennis and here are the details. The St. Elizabeth police are investigating the circumstances surrounding the abduction and attempted murder of a teacher in Santa Cruz on Tuesday. It's understood that the woman and her 3 children went shopping in the supermarket in the town. It's reported that she left something inside the supermarket and her children returned for the item while she waited in the car. Shortly after, the woman was pulled from her vehicle by men in a white car. She was taken to a remote area where her throat was slashed before the men left her for dead. However, she managed to crawl to the main road leading from La Covia towards Santa Cruz, where she was seen by persons who called the police. She was taken to hospital.
We understand that her personal belongings were not taken. She was the only person that were removed from the car, and that her throat slashed and she was dumped someplace. Luckily, she survived, so she's currently getting treatment.
This latest incident has reignited calls for the closed-circuit television CCTV cameras in the town to be repaired. The Ministry of Education has confirmed that close to 950 teachers who participated in the face-to-face summer school program have not been paid. The ministry, however, says it's making all efforts to have the outstanding funds disbursed to the teachers by next week. Speaking at the post-cabinet press briefing this morning, Acting Permanent Secretary in the ministry, Dr. Grace McLean, explained the reason for the delays.
Based on the quality of the information that we have been receiving, especially for those teachers who are not employed in the government system or who worked at a school that teacher is not employed, we had to do some detailed analysis to make sure that nobody is double paid. And earlier last week, we took the decision to allow our bursa-paid institutions to pay those teachers from those bursa-paid schools. So that process is being done as we speak, and we are committed to ensuring that all our teachers will be paid by at least the mid-October, which is next week, Friday.
Approximately 3,500 teachers participated in the face-to-face component of the summer school program. Now on Tuesday, opposition spokesperson on education, Dr. Angela Brown-Burke, raised concerns that the teachers had not been paid and called for the matter to be addressed urgently. The ministry says it accepts full responsibility.
The banking information must be accurate, and the team at Central has spent quite a bit of time just calling our teachers to ensure that we have the accurate information, because as we try to input on the system rejects if they are not correct. And so we believe we have sorted out all the kinks.
The Press Association of Jamaica, PAJ, has responded to news that the changes to the Access to Information Act will be further delayed. Speaking with our news center, PAJ President George Davis says he's very disappointed at what he calls the government's inactivity towards amending the act. Sandy Williams reports.
Since 2011, the Press Association of Jamaica, PAJ, has been pushing for changes to the Access to Information Act, ATI. The act, which was passed in June 2002, allows citizens and other persons a general right of access to official government documents that would otherwise be inaccessible. Recently, State Minister in the Ministry of Education, Youth and Information, Robert Morgan, revealed that the long-awaited amendments to the Act have been further delayed. Mr. Morgan blamed a packed legislative agenda for the hold-up and explained that changes to the Act are not likely to happen until late 2022 to 2023. This development is not sitting well with the Press Association of Jamaica President George Davis.
It is very disappointing that the government is saying that there will be an additional time to wait for the ATI Act to be amended. and there was even no certainty in what Minister Morgan said. He said probably late 2022, 2023. I mean, that means nothing. The fact is, the TVJ remains immensely disappointed in the administration's attitude and approach to updating this critical piece of legislation.
He adds that it is important that changes to the Act are done in a timely manner.
Our work could be done so much better. We could be more comfortable going about our work, and the public would have a better time navigating the legislation as they seek to get information about their government.
The PAJ president explains that it has been 10 years since the Joint Select Committee prepared its report with recommendations for the improvement of the Act.
To wait 10 years to hear that you're going to have to wait probably another year. It's absolutely infuriating. It's almost as if the government is taking a lazy-eye approach to improving the legislation. And I say lazy eye because they say they are looking at the legislation. And of course, with a lazy eye, you looking on, you don't know if they're looking at the legislation.
Speaking on the final day of Right to Know Week, Mr. Morgan said he expects that within a couple of months, the report will move from the Attorney General to Cabinet. But Mr. Davis believes there is no guarantee that the amendments will be made in the next 2 years.
What he's articulating does not square with his government's approach, or this government's approach to amending the ATI Act. And so we find it very, very disappointing, and there is no guarantee that the amendments will be made by 2022, 2023, and we have to wonder how serious this government is, and maybe the PAJ has to take a more militant approach to pressing the government to get these amendments done. We ask the government to snap out of it, pull its finger out, get its job done.
Sandy Williams, TVJ News.
To other news now, more concerns about the government's handling of the rollout of the Pfizer vaccine. A public health expert and a member of Parliament's Public Administration and Appropriations Committee are this afternoon taking issue. O'Shane Masters reports.
When a policy direction is set, it needs to be adhered to, because it causes a lot of confusion afterwards.
A frustrated Juliet Holness at Tuesday's sitting of the Public Administration and Appropriations Committee meeting. She's upset that the Pfizer brand of the COVID-19 vaccine, which was designated for students, was given to adults. The government had said earlier this year that in a bid to return to face-to-face classes, the Pfizer vaccine would be given to students ages 12 to 16. But adults were able to get the vaccine and supplies eventually ran low. And now, a number of students are unable to get the jab.
I found in doing a vaccination blitz in my own constituency, I had to be encouraging people, take AstraZeneca instead of Pfizer, which was designated by the government for children. And I was quite surprised to see individuals from the Ministry of Health comfortably dispensing Pfizer, knowing that we had AstraZeneca coming up with close dates, one, and two, knowing that we would not have enough Pfizer to do the second dose for our children. So somebody needs to explain that to us first and foremost.
Speaking on the morning agenda on Power 106, Professor of Public Health Peter Figueroa has agreed with Mrs. Holness. He argues that the government and the health ministry should take the blame for the debacle now facing the island's vaccination program.
The policy guidance from the government has not been clear and consistent. In my view, there's been too much micromanaging of the parishes. The rollout has only reached 18% of the population with one vaccine and 10% fully vaccinated. Only Haiti in the Caribbean is doing more poorly than Jamaica.
Professor Figueroa says he believes that a bigger picture is present, politics. But he says with such a health crisis, politics must take the back seat.
Everyone has to kind of step back, ensure that this is a national effort in which, everyone who is willing to help can get the opportunity to help.
Recently, over 50,000 doses of the AstraZeneca vaccine were dumped as they expired. Professor Figueroa says that could have been avoided if the health ministry did its job.
It's not that Pfizer is a superior vaccine to AstraZeneca, right? They are performing equally well. And what is interesting is that AstraZeneca duration of immunity may well outlast that of Pfizer. So, but the ministry has to be transparent. When it needs help, it must call for help.
O'Shane Masters, TVJ News.
In the meantime, the Health Ministry has defended itself against sharp criticism from Government MP Juliet Holness, saying its decision to give the Pfizer vaccine to adults was based on a policy directive. Now, during this morning's sitting of the Public Administration and Appropriations Committee, PAAC, Permanent Secretary in the Ministry, Dunstan Bryan, says the ministry did not depart from the policy directive given by the Andrew Holness-led administration. Mr. Bryan further pointed out that both the Education and Health Ministries were in agreement with giving adults the Pfizer vaccine. And with that, we take a break here on the Midday News, but please stay with us. We'll have much more when you return. Welcome back. We're continuing the news. Jamaica recorded a 16.8% COVID-19 positivity rate on Tuesday. This is a 9.2% decrease when compared to Monday's 26%. 98 new cases were reported in the last 24 hours from 535 tests. Now this pushes the overall case count to 85,261. 507 people are hospitalized with the respiratory illness. Now of that number, 34 are critically ill and 67 are severely ill. 122 more people have recovered from the virus, increasing the overall recovery count to 53,660. There are 29,070 active cases on the island. Meanwhile, 7 more people have died from COVID-19. The death toll now stands at 1,943. 8 deaths are under investigation. Investigations are ongoing in Brownstown, St. Anne following the double murder of 2 farmers in Homecastle. Now both men went to purchase cows in the area when they met their demise. O'Shane Masters reports.
The police and the family of 2 men from Wattown in St. Anne are trying to piece together what led to them being shot and killed in the community of Homecastle in the parish. It's understood that 76-year-old Samuel Johnson and Richard Harris, who is in his mid-40s, went to purchase cattle on Monday. When they did not return home, a report was made to the Brownstown Police. Zone Commander Deputy Superintendent Ryan Gale says a search was launched immediately where the vehicle the men were driving was located. But due to poor visibility, the search was called off. However, on Tuesday morning, the search resumed and the bodies were discovered in Homecastle.
Police team immediately responded and went to the location where we saw the bodies of both men lying in a wooded area of the community. They appeared lifeless, and as such, we contacted the TSD team. One of the men was found bound by the hands and foot in an off-road section of the area, and the other man was found lying face down in a pool of blood.
DSP Gale says both men had a single gunshot wound. He says the Major Investigation Division will be assisting the Brownstown CIB in carrying out the investigation. In the meantime, he is commending the community for the assistance in the search efforts.
And based on the effort, the coordinated effort between the police and the community, we were able to get a result from this search. Not the result that we wanted, but a result nonetheless that can bring closure to the family as it relates to what would have happened to their loved ones.
O'Shane Masters, TVJ News.
And it's now time for the Business Minute.
In the world of business, Tourism Minister Ed Bartlett is to hold talks with multinational travel company TUI, which has kept Jamaica on an updated list of cancelled holiday destinations after the UK's travel rules changed on Monday. Trips to Jamaica will continue to be suspended until at least October 16. Mr. Bartlett says the meeting with TUI will be held shortly.
our big travel agent partner, tour operators, and a major driver of airlift from the Nordics and other gateways. So for us, the UK is an issue right now, but we're going to work that through over the next few weeks.
New simplified travel rules are now in effect in the UK. The traffic light system has been replaced by a single red list. The green and amber lists have been scrapped. It's being reported that the local conch industry has suffered a $284 million decline in earnings over the last 20 years. Agriculture Minister Order Shaw says this was due to illegal, unreported and unregulated conch fishing. This has also depleted the supply of the seafood, which prompted a 2-year closure of conch fishing at the Petro Keys. Mr. Shaw says the illegal activities are fueling an annual loss of $6 million in direct export earnings and 5,500 local jobs. And that's it for the Business Minute. I'm Shane Masters.
And here now is a preview of what's coming up in this evening's Health Report.
In this evening's Health Report, we look at COVID-19 and lupus.
Things kind of went downhill in my 30s. In terms of, I noticed that I couldn't do push-ups anymore. On my wrists, it was painful, and I had to use push-up bars instead. And then eventually, I know that I have bad arthritis, and my father said, just regular arthritis. And I thought that was just when I was away studying. I used to have issues when the time got really cold, and I would have issues walking. Like I would have my joints would get, especially my knee or my ankle joints would get quite painful when, especially the time got really, really cold.
That's the Health Report in Primetime News at 7. And now for today's healthy living tip. Try to avoid stress. Exercise regularly. Eat healthy, avoid the sun, don't smoke, and avoid alcohol.
Now for the top regional and international stories, here's Sandy Williams.
In the region, Antigua and Barbuda's ambassador to the Organization of American States, OAS, Sir Ronald Saunders, on Tuesday called for an end to the celebration of the Encounter of Two Worlds, an annual event promoted by Spain to mark the so-called discovery of the New World by Christopher Columbus. Sir Ronald said Antigua and Barbuda would not be a true friend of Spain if it were to pretend that this occasion is one that they welcome and support. Sir Ronald said the occasion should not be celebrated, it should be lamented, adding that it was an encounter contrived on the ideology of European superiority that is today commonly called racism. Further afield, dozens of cargo ships are clogging two of the biggest ports in the U.S. They are just sitting off the coast of Southern California because there are not enough people to help unload them. Not only is this slowing down the delivery process, but it's also hiking prices of goods. And that's it for the top regional and international stories. I'm Sandy Williams.
And we now head to a quick break. When we come back, Renata Brown will have the Midday Sports.
Welcome back. It's now time for your Midday Sports. We start with football as make use of your opportunity. That's the word from Reggae Boys assistant coach Paul Hall after several players were ruled out of their World Cup qualifier against the United States on Thursday. The Jamaicans, who are bottom of the table with 1 point from 3 games, are now in the United States to play the hosts, and Hall wants the players to think about what they can control going into the contest.
We've got enough quality in the squad to beat these Americans. The mood is good. We just have to make sure that we that are in the squad believe that we can beat the Americans, beat the Canadians, and beat the Hondurans. It's as simple as that. We've got to go and have our belief and get the positive, take the positives out of the game.
Meanwhile, midfielder Junior Flemings and Jamoy Topi are the latest players to arrive in the Reggae Boys squad ahead of their World Cup qualifying game against the United States on Thursday. The arrival of Flemings and Topi comes on the heels of 4 players pulling out of the squad over the past few days, with the latest being West Ham United's Michael Antonio, who was scheduled to arrive in the US on Tuesday. While Flemings was originally part of the squad, Topi was a late call-up to replace defender Ethan Pinnock, who is out injured. Defender Liam Moore and midfielder Daniel Johnson are the other players to have withdrawn citing injury. The team trained on Tuesday evening at the Aston Bold FC Stadium and will have another training today before Thursday's game. And the Reggae Boys will once again not have the voices of local support inside the National Stadium for a second successive World Cup qualifying match, with Minister of Local Government and Rural Development Desmond McKenzie announcing that no fans will be allowed into Sunday's game against Canada. In a statement sent on Wednesday, McKenzie noted that the decision was taken due to the need to maintain close management of COVID-19. The statement went on to say, quote, "No spectator, vaccinated or unvaccinated, will be allowed into the stadium. Additionally, the public is reminded that under the current disaster risk management order, Sunday is a no-movement day," end quote. The game between the Reggae Boys and Panama, where the host lost 3-0, was also played without spectators. With the Jamaican juniors competing in Nairobi twice in the last 4 years, senior athletes could be taking a trip to the African continent in 2025. This as Kenya on Tuesday confirmed its bid to host the Athletics World Championships, which, if accepted, would bring the event to Africa for the first time. Nairobi has hosted both the World Under-18 and Under-20 World Championships in the last 4 years, but faces a string of high-profile rivals, including Tokyo, which staged the Olympic Games in July. Africa has never hosted the World Athletics Premier Showpiece, which was first contested in Helsinki, Finland in 1983. Kenya Sports Minister Amina Mohamed first announced the country's bid for the 2025 World Championships in Doha in September 2019, after World Athletics said the global event would be held on a rotational basis across continents. And that's it for your Midday Sports Report. Giovanni, it's back to you.
Thanks so much, Renardo, and that's it indeed for the Midday News. I'm Giovanni Dennis. Join us at 7 for Primetime News. On behalf of the news, sports and production teams, have a good afternoon.